starting with the basic sine graph. How do you determine the amplitude of our sine graph? Where do we look to find the amplitude of any trig function? Yeah, the number multiplied out in front. So in this case, my amplitude would be A. Alright, for everything except tangent and cotangent, the normal period is pi. So to find your period, you do 2 pi divided by the number in front of x. So 2 pi over b in this case. To find our count by, it's always the period divided by 4 for the 4 quadrants. And again, for everything except tangent and cotangent, our normal interval is, the argument is in between 0 and 2 pi. Graph of a basic sine function. So our points are 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. 5.1, 0.1. Did you do okay?
Yeah.
Where does sine start? And then it goes up to 1, back to 0, down to 1, and back to 0. See you later.
See you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now we have the basic graph of sine and all those key attributes for it. Let's do the same thing for cosine. So cosine, this information is all the same. Amplitude is the number out in front. Period is just 2 pi divided by the number in front of x, so 2 pi over b. Count by is always period divided by 4 for the 4 quadrants. Interval, we have to set it up between 0 and 2 pi. And in fact, 4 of our 6 trig functions, this information is the same. Okay, there's only 2 different ones. Everything else follows that same general plane. Then what does the graph of cosine look like? So points on the x-axis, 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Cosine starts at pi. Any issues with sine and cosine? Right, tangent. Tangent and cotangent are the 2 different ones. Amplitude, it's still not really a true amplitude, but we use it to get points on our graph. So that's the number in front. But the period, this is the first thing that's different. Normal period for tangent and cotangent is just pi. So it's pi divided by the number in front of x. Count by is still period divided by 4. The interval is also different for tangent. What interval do we choose? start this graph. We'll start at negative pi over 2. And then negative pi over 4. 0. Pi over 4. Pi over 2. We choose this interval because we get asymptotes on both ends. We're asymptote at negative pi over 2. And positive pi over 2. Then tangent hits its 0 point in the middle. Remember, it's increasing because negative pi over 4, that's like the fourth quadrant, tangent's negative in the fourth. Pi over 4 is in the first quadrant, tangent's positive in the first. So our graph looks like that. So cotangent. Amplitude and count by are the same, period and interval are the two things that are different. Amplitude is still the number out in front. Period is like tangent. Tangent and cotangent both have a normal period of pi, so it's pi divided by the number in front of x. Count by is always period divided by 4. What interval do we use for cotangent? We start at 0, we count by pi over 4. And just like with tangent, we pick this because that gives us asymptotes on both ends. That's why we have the funky intervals, so that we can draw a complete graph in the middle. Okay, at the center point, it's on the axis. Pi over 4 is in the first quadrant, and everything's positive in the first. So at pi over 4, it's at 1. 3 pi over 4 is second quadrant. Cotangent's negative in the second, so that's a negative 1. Or if you get confused, just evaluate them. If you plug in pi over 4, cotangent of pi over 4 is 1. 3 pi over 4, it's negative 1. Is that one okay? Alright. Secant and cosecant. That's back to being like our other functions. So we're going to graph them just like when we did sines and cosines. Amplitude is the number out in front. Normal period is back to being 2 pi divided by the number in front of x. Count by is always period divided by 4. And interval is back to 0 and 2 pi. what was our trick for graphing cosecant? So sine starts at 0, pi over 2 is at 1, pi is 0, 3 pi over 2 negative 1, 2 pi is 0. Make sure I can tell that apart from your other ones. So either make it, some people are doing it dashed, some people are drawing it in really light. If you're drawing both of them and they look both like normal pencil marks, you might highlight your final one so I can tell. This is my graph of sine. So when I look at this, anywhere it's 0, we get a vertical asymptote. So that's at 0, pi, and 2 pi. The high and low points stay. And then we turn our graph away from the x-axis. So my actual graph is those two black parabolas. Final one is C. So back to the normal stuff. Amplitude is A, period is always 2 pi divided by the number in front of x. Count pi is always the period divided by 4. Interval, unless it's tangent or cotangent, is just between 0 and 2 pi. If we want to graph secant, we start by cosine. Cosine of 0 is 1, pi over 2 is 0, pi is negative 1, 2 pi over 2 is 0, and 2 pi is 1. And anywhere this is 0, we put in an asymptote. Hopefully yours are a little bit straighter than that one is. And keep the high and low points. Turn the graph away from the axis. And for any of these, if I ask for a second period, we just add 4 more points on and keep following our pattern. Any questions? So that's our refresh over all these. If you turn your paper over, there's 6 problems on the back. So that's your homework. You're welcome to draw them on this handout, but if you need more space, just grab another sheet of paper and do them on notebook paper.